Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for another round of Comic Run Talk, and we're going to pick up where we left off with Superman Rebirth and Action Comics Rebirth. So, when we last left off, we finished up the first story of Action Comics Rebirth, which was the return of Superman to the world stage, and we also got the mystery of Reporter Kent, because that was crazy, or more appropriately,
As the dwarves would say, that story was cray cray.
and here we are now with Superman Rebirth. And I personally think I enjoy Superman Rebirth a bit more in some ways, and I think it comes down to how different it is compared to Action Comics. Where Action Comics is dealing with the DC Universe as a whole, with the mystery of Reporter Kent, Mr. Oz, Superman Rebirth is really about, well, Superman, or rather, his family. So, Son of Superman really starts off with John just sort of watching his dad save the farm animals from a fire when lightning strikes the barn, and John just steals the scene here as he just watches his dad. His dad gives him a thumbs up. He gives a thumbs up back, and with such pride and admiration, he says, "My dad is Superman." And John himself is eager to start using his powers and learning about them with his dad, about how to use them, but promises his dad he won't when Clark isn't around. He's on his way to, do his chores, and while he's there, there's a hawk that swoops down and takes the family cat, Goldie, and John accidentally triggers his heat vision, which didn't even know he had yet, and kills both the hawk and the cat. And this kid's devastated by it because not only did he kill the family cat and a bird, he also broke his promise to his dad, and he runs home. He sees this blonde girl who saw the whole thing, and he just sort of draws in on himself. And he even starts lashing out at his parents for keeping up this sort of lie about who they are, even to the new girl who introduces himself, even to the girl who introduces herself as Kathy, who's just moved to Hamilton. And that night, John sees his dad meeting up with Wonder Woman and Batman, and just seeing all three of them look at him, it just scares him, and he's sort of convinced that he's in trouble, that they found out, and he's going to be turned in somewhere. And that's when his dad shows up and says, like, come with me. And John actually is afraid that you're going to take him to the Justice League. Are they going to, like, punish me because, he lied and he killed two animals? Like, out of context, this does feel like, psycho nature here. But, John's just a kid. And, he's in trouble. And so, like when you're a kid, you realize you're in trouble, you've broken a promise. It's always the worst possible thing going through your head. But anyway, what Clark is doing here is like, hey, we need to help these submariners in the Arctic. There's a distress call going up, and I want you to watch and learn what I do and keep the shadows. And this is actually a really cool moment because one thing that's really doesn't work in Superman stories is like, can Superman beat X? 9 times out of 10, the answer is of course he can. But what makes it cool is the story behind it. And this giant octopus that's partially responsible for the sub being stuck, as well as currently causing a problem now, is being controlled by this crystal on its eye. And Clark tells John, like, John, you got to use your heat vision, and you've got to hit it while I keep its eye open. And John's afraid, doesn't think he can do it. And he tells him, like, yes, you can. You can do this. You're my son. And then he does it. He makes the shot, as Clark says, aim small, miss small. I think he took that from the Patriot, but whatever. Anyway, it all quiets down, and we see John and Clark have a talk, starting with the Superman shirt that John is wearing, and what the symbol itself means. John wore it because he wanted to feel super like his dad. And Superman tells him that someday you may have to embrace the S for himself, and that the symbol, being Superman, isn't about superpowers, what you can lift, heat vision, or any multitude of powers Superman has or doesn't have anymore, like shooting rainbows from his fingertips. Like, he doesn't have that power anymore. What it is about character and doing the right thing when no one else will, even when you're scared, even when you think no one is looking. And that's great. That is what Superman is, and this has an effect on John. John confesses what he did, that it was an accident. And Clark reveals that he knew, that he uses heat vision, and with his mother, the three of them make a grave for Goldie, the cat. And it's really sweet and tender, and it feels like something out of a really great family sitcom. I still don't know what tune I should play for that. I'll think about it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. What good old family sitcom should play for this? I don't know yet.
You know where we hug and the music goes, la la la. Thanks, boys, just like that.
Later, while talking about John's developing powers, Lois receives a package from Lois Lane. But before we can go into that, it turns out that Jon fell from a tree while hanging out with Kathy, and he's unconscious, so Lois and Clark decide to take him to the Fortress of Solitude. And the reason they're going here is because they need access to the fortress's equipment because they still don't understand Jon's physiology, as his powers seem to be fading in and out. Like, from the height he fell, he should be fine. But we also don't quite know what made his powers all of a sudden, peak out to break the tree in the first place. And it is at the fortress that they meet the Eradicator. And Superman, being Superman from another Earth, freaks out at seeing the Eradicator because the Eradicator is crazy and is like a super homicidal, well, not really homicidal, but it's a Kryptonian robot thing. Oh, I should have watched Death of Superman and Return of Superman and War of the Superman. Is it War of the Superman? No, that's a different comic. Actually, really good comic. But anyway. There's a quick fight between Superman and the Eradicator, and Krypto's here, so this event just got 10 times better. Dogs make every story a little bit better. Actually, 10 times better. Anyway, the fight sort of gets a bit serious until the Eradicator saves Lois and Jon, and Clark decides, okay, I'm going to hear you out. What's going on? Why are you the Eradicator? Why are you wearing the Superman costume? And the Eradicator reveals that, well, what we should know is that he's not the same Eradicator that Clark knows from his pre-52 existence. Here, the Eradicator is one of many secret protocols built by General Zod to arrest Kryptonian lawbreakers and imprison them in the Phantom Zone. And when Krypton was destroyed, he was sent with a new directive, which is to find the last son of Krypton and to restore the Kryptonian. And to do this, he says he needs to remove the human genome from Jon, and that's when everything gets crazy. Obviously, Clark and Lois aren't having it, and what ensues is an insane battle. And I know as this is for Action Comics. Action Comics, that fight got insane because everyone kept showing up. 1 minute, it's Superman talking trash to Lex, Lex talking trash back, then Doomsday shows up, then Clark Kent shows up, then Wonder Woman shows up, and then a bunch of weird guys show up and a beam of light and Doomsday is gone. This time, this fight just goes everywhere. From the Fortress of Solitude, down to Metropolis, to the bottom of the ocean, to the moon. Krypto gets absorbed, and I'm freaking out because Krypto's gone. And Jon is all sorts of tormented over what's been going on here. He sort of views himself as like imperfect, that this is his fault. And you realize what's at stake here is not just Krypton, but Jon's soul in a lot of ways. And it gets even more crazier as Lois puts on a bat suit because, of course, Batman has a cave on the moon. We meet Bibbo and Hacken, old Superman and Batman locals. The Eradicator holding the souls of Krypton inside of him, empowering him, and Clark has to convince them to help stop the Eradicator. For Krypton's new future, Lois helps Jon realize that he's great just the way he is, and it's all really touching and great, and this is about this family taking on the world, and it's just great. I still don't know what to play. The story ends with Jon fully embracing the secret identity lifestyle with glasses and a cap, and is introduced to Batman and Wonder Woman. And that's how this ends. So this is a nice little family book, and this is what Peter Tomasi is sort of good at. Now, I personally love his Green Lantern run a bit more, but when I think of Tomasi, I think of stuff like Batman and Robin, which really helped flesh out Bruce and Damian's relationship as father and son. I think of his other book at this time, which was the Super Sons book, which helped flesh out Jon and Damian as characters. And this family is so great. I mean, because I can't think of just one of them. I think of how Lois is sort of like the anger for the two of them. When Clark gets a bit too far from himself, Lois pulls him back in. Because oddly enough, in this situation, Clark is the overprotective dad. And Lois is sort of like, you've got to give him space. We've got to introduce him to the world that we live in, because our world gets crazy, your world gets crazy. He's still, there's another Lois Lane out there and another Clark Kent. We're all freaking out. We need to be on the ball here. There's a great moment where Lois and Jon really do steal this particular Eradicator story, where it was really really Jon and Clark stealing the spotlight in the first story. And it's just so good. Like, oh my god, I love Jon Kent. Like, if I had to have a son, and he could be half Kryptonian, half human, I don't know how I got that kid. I'd like him to be Jon. I just would. He's a level-headed kid. He means well. He reads like a kid. He exaggerates things. He's excited. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got that childish form of guilt, especially since they are talking about him, so it works. The Eradicator was a great threat. Crypto. Who doesn't love Crypto? Maybe Ace the Bat Hound, but this isn't his story. This is the time for Ace. Anyway, we're rambling a bit. I love this. Love Tomasi. Love Dan Jurgens, who writes Action Comics. I don't think I mentioned that last time. So we're going to bring this to a close here. So anyway, we'll catch you all later when we jump back to Action Comics to see what's going on at the Daily Planet. So with that in mind, let's bring this video to a close here. If you are new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave your thoughts on in the comment section. I still want to know, what old family sitcom theme should we play for Lois, Clark, and Jon? And I'll get back to you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching, and as always, may your fandom serve you well.